Alrighty, hello, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. My name is Anthony DeSimone. Once again, alongside of me is...
Hello, one and all. This is Daniel Guyza back for another Penguins Pointers.
As promised in the last podcast, Dan said he would stop back in to talk some Penguins hockey, and give a little bit about the Chicago Blackhawks. So let's get moving on here.
Here we go.
Today, Dan took down the rivals 4-1.
Yes.
Really did not look like the Flyers. No offense to Flyers fans, but I don't care. But honestly, it didn't look like they took the ice.
Good.
Penguins held them to 17 shots, one of the lowest totals of the season in terms of shots allowed by the Penguins. The Penguins controlled the pace of the game. They really slowed the game down in the second and third periods, played their way, and kept the Flyers out of their zone. And they didn't fall into the Flyers' little trap that they have in the third period where they start to get real physical and start chatting with the other team and try to get them to take an ill-advised penalty. The Penguins just, took a couple, jabs here and there and just didn't think twice about it. They let the Flyers play their game, but the Penguins did not fall victim to getting into any scraps or fights that would have given the Flyers a power play. So, on the bad side, face-offs were not good today. 34%, 35% for the team, which is surprising because usually when a team doesn't have a lot of shots, they usually don't win the face-offs, and it's odd to see that the Flyers were able to win the face-offs but not get shots. So, and as we always complain, Dan and I, nothing from the power play again, 0 for 3.
Yep.
They are middle of the pack now this season with their power play. About 17% of the time do they score. And we were talking about this amongst ourselves before the podcast started. Dan, do you think we'll ever find a coach or a group of players that can have a consistently strong power play from the Penguins? Do you think that's a
With
thing?
this team, it's tough to say. I mean, when Malkin's in there, I say when they're fully healthy, I think he definitely makes a difference with keeping that power play going. And it's definitely, I knew it was going to take a hit as soon as he got injured, and they'll have to. I don't know what they're going to have to do, but what they're doing right now ain't working, and you're going to need that power play to make a run in the playoffs. So hopefully they get things figured out soon.
Right. And one of my suggestions was to bump up Matt Cullen onto the second line. No offense to Bonino, good player. I just feel Matt Cullen...
He's been disappointing, though, this year.
Why do you think he's disappointing this year, Dan?
He hasn't really made the impact that I thought, bringing in a guy of, his marginal talent, maybe he's not a right fit for this team, I'd say.
Maybe like a David Perron?
Yeah, maybe he'd probably be doing better elsewhere. I mean, I'm more impressed with guys like Russ, Kuhnhackl, Sheary,
Scott Wilson.
Those guys are the ones that are impressing me. And you got Sprong and Sundqvist down the pipe.
Yeah.
So if we let them go, I really wouldn't care.
But that's just a thought of mine. Maybe we try bumping, or maybe
Sure.
the Penguins try bumping Cullen up to the second line, get a strong face-off man with Hagelin and Kessel, and see if maybe we get a little bit of better production out of that second line. It's tough though because without Malkin on that second line, it's almost like that second line gets a little lost.
Yes.
They don't have that. They don't have that center leadership that they had before. They still have the two fastest wingers in the NHL, but you're missing that. You're missing that center guy. Yeah,
he keeps it going.
So hopefully Malkin is recovering. We don't expect to see him anytime soon.
Early May, if they make it that far.
If the Penguins get that far, but hope he has a safe and speedy recovery for him. But let's jump down, Dan. 5-game winning streaks for the Penguins. After having a stint where they were winning one and losing 1.
50-50, yeah, they were going 50-50.
They were finally able to get 5 in a row. 10 big points.
Exactly what you need to do.
And we'll talk about how that affected the standings shortly. But 5-game winning streak looking extended to 6 with their next game tomorrow.
Huge
or
game.
Today, depending on when you listen to this.
Right.
Crosby extends his point streak to 11 games now. He is the only player in the NHL this season to have two point streaks of 10 games or more. It's a shame he couldn't have got a couple points in between to keep that streak going. But, hey, points are points. He'll take them. He's now up to 43 assists this season and 31 goals. So looking really good for Crosby.
72.
A good season. Yep, 72 points. Looking good for Crosby, taking over the role now that Malkin's dropped out. He's really picked up the slack per se.
He's a leader. He is a leader.
And the last point to explain this, the Penguins have closed the gap and have created some space for themselves as well. Now, that's not to say the Penguins should slack off in terms of how they play the next couple games, but
yeah, you can't.
They've closed the gap up on the Rangers and the Islanders in terms of the points, and with defeating the Flyers today, have created some gap as well. And we'll take a look at the standings here real quick to check it out. This is what they look like. Keep in mind, as you see, the Penguins now have the third spot in the Metropolitan. That may only be temporary. As the recording of this podcast is going, the Islanders are playing right now against the Dallas Stars. So these stats are as of 8 o'clock yesterday, or Saturday, I should say. So, regardless, we have a score on that game? Oh, that was the San Jose game.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that was the other one to talk about. San Jose defeated the Rangers today 4-1, so that kept the Rangers at bay with their points. And this is how it pans out right now. Capitals still running away in the NHL, 107 points. Rangers sit up there with their 88-point mark. The Penguins have 86 now. Jumping down to the Atlantic, Panthers, Bruins, and Lightning jumping around now. The Lightning have struggled as of late and fallen to third in that division, where the Panthers have regained first place by a few points over the Bruins. Wildcard spot, like I said, temporarily the Islanders will be there unless they lose tonight. But I feel they have a decent shot at taking at least 1 point against the Dallas Stars. But
Right.
Dallas is looking good in the Western Conference, so maybe they'll do the Penguins a favor and keep the Islanders in 7th place. We'll find out by the end of the night. But 8th place is the Red Wings. Really tough for the Red Wings. Lost the last couple games that they needed. They've really put themselves now in a bad spot.
Their playoff streak in jeopardy.
Yeah. How many seasons? It's a 20
20
plus now, right?
I think it may be 21 or 22.
But that puts them in a bad spot because they're the Flyers in 9th. First team out, only 1 point behind them. We were talking about this before the podcast, Dan. I'm thinking the Senators and Canadiens, probably by next week, if we don't see any life come out of them, it's
They're
almost
done.
to say they're out.
Yeah, with less than,
Less
3
than
weeks
10
in the
games.
season.
Yeah.
At this point, it's like, you know who's probably going to make it and who's not.
Yeah, I think the only two viable teams that have a decent shot, if the Hurricanes can get themselves moving again, they have a shot. But after their loss to the Penguins on Thursday, they're looking a little bit dried up as well. But I think the Flyers have the best chance. And we all know the Flyers love to have those.
Here's the thing. I mean, you look at the end of the schedule. Penguins play Philadelphia on April 9th. Then Philly also plays the Islanders on April 10th, the last day of the season. There's going to be two huge, crucial games to determine. We'll see how Philly can, withstand.
Right. Not to mention, the Flyers actually play Pittsburgh twice the last week of the NHL regular season. They play them the Sunday the 3rd and then Saturday the 9th. So there's 4 points up for grab between the Penguins and Flyers the last week of the season, on top of the fact that the Penguins will be facing off against the Washington Capitals one more time that week as well, and that is in Washington. So Penguins still have a lot of divisional games left, despite the fact they only have 11 games left in the season. But like I was saying, I think the only team out of the in the hunt section that has a legitimate chance at making the playoffs would be the Flyers. And they are either going to, unless the Islanders fall off the wagon. I mean, but they have two games. They have 2 games in hand. They still have 2 more games than everybody else to play, so they have a little bit of a cushion. But I think the Flyers maybe have a chance to play spoiler for either the Penguins or the Red Wings in terms of knocking playoff streaks out. But let's just hope the Flyers stay out of the playoffs.
Yeah.
Personally,
sorry if anybody's listening from Philadelphia, but I hate the Flyers, and they can suck it. Okay, just throwing it out there. Sorry, I can't help myself.
But so like we said, the Flyers have probably the most legitimate chance of stealing a playoff spot if they can. But everybody that's in the playoff currently controls their fate. The Penguins, if they can continue to win, they can keep themselves in. If the Red Wings can get themselves back on track after struggling,
I'd rather have the Wings in there.
Right. So, but currently the Flyers don't have a playoff spot. Let's all hope for the sake of the Penguins and the rest of the NHL that the Flyers stay out of the playoffs. So, with that, let's jump on to the next game, Dan. This will be Sunday.
It's a weird time
at home. I think it might be the game of the week
because
it might be.
6 p.m. for the Capitals, and then Chicago plays at 8:30. So I think that's why there's a weird time. Right there.
Yeah. So Washington Capitals come to town. Penguins will be coming home from Philadelphia tonight.
It's going to be tough with back-to-back. You have to think of that.
Playing the top dog in the NHL, first in the Metro, first in the NHL. I put it down on the bottom. This is something that's going to affect tomorrow's game. The Capitals have the top power play unit in the National Hockey League. 23.2% of the time they score on the power play. That is almost 1 out of every 4 chance, Dan.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think the Penguins are going to have to do to stay out of that box tomorrow?
Well, play smart. Don't take stupid penalties, obviously, because if you do that, you get yourself in a hole, and Washington's able to capitalize, no pun intended, on that power play. It's going to make it very difficult for the Penguins. Not saying that they can't, because they have beaten this Washington team, and they've been shown to be really resilient, especially, in that game that we were at on Thursday, down 2-0 in a hole, and they were able to find a way to get that. All you need is a goal to get some momentum going, and, stick it to Washington, play smart, get pucks in net, keep it simple, and you'll win.
Right.
You can win this game.
Right, and at top, there's those 3 tips that we think the Penguins need to win the game. Speed, and that's coming from all 4 lines. That's not just Kessel and Hagelin. That's Crosby getting in there. That is Matt Cullen putting the afterburners on. Brian Rust getting in there and causing some havoc. Just play a fast game against the Capitals. The Capitals have size, and we know the Penguins don't have size, but it's good to play
Make up for it in speed.
Yeah, if you can speed around them, they're going to miss their checks anyway.
Right.
No penalties. I mean, let's hope that doesn't happen. That'd be fantastic if they stay out of the box the entire game, but we know how these games go, and the Penguins tend to get in penalty trouble. But if they can stay out of the box and keep the Capitals' power play off the ice, I think it gives them a better shot at the game. And composure. If you watch the Flyers game, you'll understand what I'm talking about. The Penguins played their hockey game in the third period. The Flyers were instigating and throwing jabs at Penguins players, and they were just laughing it off and going to the bench because they knew they were up 3-1. There was no need to get rattled by that kind of play. And I think if the Penguins just go home in their home atmosphere and play their hockey game, I think they'll have the best chance of taking down the beast of Washington Capitals this season.
They've done it before. They beat them. This month?
Was it this month or was it way back at the beginning of the season that they beat them?
It was the makeup game against Washington. I'm pretty sure we won.
I think it was.
No, actually, we lost that game.
No,
that was a close game though.
No, the last time we beat I think it was go back to October. I think it was October was the last time we played them. We played them at the beginning of the season. And I think they won at that point. But other than that, the Capitals have taken the last 2 against the Penguins. So this is going to be a tough one tomorrow. Like we said, back-to-back games. I don't think they've made the decision as who's starting in net.
Right. And we're assuming it's going to be Fleury.
We're thinking it's going to be Fleury because when you only face 17 shots in a game, you're for the most part a goaltender is going to be pretty fresh for their next game. So, and it's almost like, and I had this analogy if anybody's a baseball fan, it's like a pitcher pitching, 3 or 4 innings in a game. He can go pitch the next day. So I think Fleury will be good. The only thing to be concerned about there is if Fleury gets in net and has a very poor start. Was it October? Yeah, I told you. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the last time the Penguins, real quick, beat the Capitals was October 28th of last year, 2015. They won 3-1. But, either way, even if they decide to put Murray in net tomorrow, we were at Dan and I were both at the Carolina game, Murray let up 2 quick goals, but after that,
tremendous.
He was shut down.
Shout out to Matt Murray. You rock, dude. You played killer.
Very, very
amazing saves. Yeah, good for him.
Very shut down. The first
future.
Yeah, I think what happened in that game was the first goal just got in, and then
they weren't playing well in front of them.
Yeah, when you score a goal in 45 seconds, you kind of rattle the team, and I think that's what happened.
I didn't blame him at all.
So, and it's the Penguins kept the shots going. I think they had like 22 shots in the first period, and that's something to maybe even add against the Washington Capitals for maybe a 4th tip to win. Get shots on net. The Penguins had, I think, 48 or 49 shots against the Carolina Hurricanes on Thursday, and they had 35 against the Philadelphia Flyers. Keep the puck on net, because if you're keeping the puck on net and having a lot of shots in a game, that means you're in the offensive zone. And when you're in the offensive zone, you're not in your zone giving up shots. So I think that's something that the Penguins also need to work on. So, and if they keep that shots up, they still lead the NHL in shots, 32.9 shots per game. Leads the NHL by half a shot. So good for the Penguins. And as I've talked before, statistically, the team that has the most shots in the NHL usually has the best chance at winning a Stanley Cup. We had that about a couple podcasts ago. If you guys want to look back into that one and check it out. What you got to say about that, Dan?
Sorry, I'm zoned out there. What'd you say?
About the shots and how they affect them. So, but that's
I agree with what. Sorry, folks. I literally just zoned out. Okay.
Anyway, well, we'll let Dan zone back in.
Here we go.
And we'll get Dan into his little Chicago corner.
Let me see my line. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Daniel Gaza, and I'm the advocate for the reigning, defending, undisputed 3-time Stanley Cup champions of the world, the Chicago Blackhawks. Here we go. Let's talk Hawks.
Third in Central, Dan. They were last time you were here. They were in first. Do you blame them for being in third now?
They had a couple bad games in a row, but they came out with a. I'm always looking forward, and you never look behind. You got to put those 4 losses in a row. They had the overtime loss to St. Louis, but that was a good game overall. They played really bad against L.A. and Dallas. Was disappointed with that. A close loss against the Flyers, played a little bit better, and then look at the turnaround against Winnipeg. So they'll be all right. I'm not worried about them. They have a game tomorrow night against Minnesota at 8:30 p.m. So you focus, you win that game, you could surpass St. Louis potentially. Hawks will be fine. And with Corey Crawford out day-to-day with a lower body injury, you got Scott Darling as a reliable backup. He played really well against Winnipeg, so I'm not too worried about the Hawks at all.
All right, then we put down there a little tidbit. The Minnesota Wild will be playing a little tougher against the Chicago Blackhawks as they are the first team out of the playoff picture in the West. They currently sit in the 9 spot looking to get back into the playoffs.
And these teams have developed a rivalry with one another, with being in the playoffs the last couple of years. There's definitely animosity. So it'll definitely be a factor.
And Dan, I know you were saying this before we started recording.
Yes.
What did you call the Minnesota Wild, Dan?
The little engine that, sorry, Wilds fans, couldn't. Sorry, I had to say it. No harm.
And why do you call them the little engine that couldn't, Dan?
Because last year everybody was like, "Oh, go Minnesota, go Minnesota! They could win the Stanley Cup," and then they ran right into the brick wall that is the reigning, defending, 3-time undisputed Stanley Cup champions of the world. Thank you very much.
You just love saying that, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Alrighty, well, for us, Dan, we're done.
That's it.
I'll allow you, as always. You want to give a chime into your channel? Go right ahead.
Sure. Like I said, check out my channel, youtube.com/DanielGuys412 for all the latest professional wrestling, news, thoughts, and opinions, reviews that, I provide through my videos. And be on the lookout this upcoming Monday Night Raw. We are only 2 weeks away till WrestleMania. I will be going live for my Raw review at 11:15 p.m. to give my full insights and opinions on Raw is Philadelphia. That's right. It'll be emanating live from the Wells Fargo Center. So come on in, and we'll have a great discussion.
Ooh, gonna be in Philadelphia.
It's gonna be it's gonna be a hot crowd. That's the thing. I don't like it for hockey, but for wrestling, the fans go crazy. So it should be a fun Raw. We'll see.
Alrighty, guys. Well, as always, for this channel, if you get a chance, hit that like button down below. Subscribe if you haven't. And as for this edition, Dan and I will catch you guys next time. Take care.